Jason Rzucidlo reporting from the 2014 AltCar Expo here in Santa Monica. Stay tuned for remarks from panelists in the discussion titled California's Tough Energy Choices.
You know, back 100 years ago, there was also the battle between electric cars and gasoline cars. And his point was the reason why electric lost then is because electricity was about 10 times more expensive than gasoline. So now we're at this opposite point where electricity is actually less expensive than gasoline. And I just thought that was a fantastic historical perspective, because I haven't really heard the answer for why did electrics lose, you know, other than Rockefeller.
Well, there's another too.
Go ahead, Dean, and then Rick.
The reason it's kind of funny is the invention of the electric starter. I don't really remember some of those old-time movies where people had to go out and crank the engine. Yeah, the invention of the electric starter, you know, caused the electric. Because one of the biggest reasons why a lot of women actually drove electric cars back then was because it was just a very pleasant experience.
Yeah, no gas on the skirts.
And that was one of the things I was going to say, is that actually one of the reasons, you know, you talk about macho. I mean, 100 years ago it was just the same. And electrics were packaged as catering to women. And so the men bought the cars, and the men bought gasoline.
And now women control influence 85% of purchases.
Yeah, but I wanted to
influence, not buy outright.
Yeah. There was a piece that I lost on. You were talking, Dean, about a moment ago. We were speaking.
The automakers?
The automakers. Because one of the things we lose when we talk about the subsidies, think about what just recently happened with GM. Think about what we found out about why they didn't fix the ignition key situation. They said there wasn't a business case for replacing the defective ignition switches. And the reason there wasn't a business case was they were selling those vehicles, pumping them out at cost. They were making $0 on them. And they were selling them because they needed to sell them so that they could sell the pickups and the SUVs that they were making $8,000 to $10,000 a pop on. And they had to have that balance to meet CAFE. So there's no real difference here.
So does everybody know what CAFE is? Corporate average fuel economy?
So the point is, all these manufacturers do this anyway to play in the market. You know, they have to do this for a variety of reasons, and this happens to be one. And now they're tweaking it and saying, well, you know, we're losing money on these things. I wonder what the balance, the profit statement looks like for a Corvette or a Viper. You know,
it's not so good for the Viper right now because I think they just dropped the price.
But my point is the same.
Yeah.
Know? I mean, you know, Fiat crying that we're losing don't buy these cars, we're losing $13,000, $14,000 a piece. What are you losing on the Viper? And yet they continue to produce it.
So I wanted to switch to hydrogen, Mr. Darrell.
Oh, okay, just a quick note that you probably don't notice it, but there's a very important kind of behind-the-scenes role in California, particularly the California Air Resources Board, that set up the zero-emission vehicle mandate, which requires every company that sells vehicles in California has to have a share of them as zero-emission vehicles. And you know, they don't want to do it, but, you know, like you're just hearing, but they're mandated to do it, and that's helping force this technology forward. A lot of interesting things happening behind the scenes in California.
Yeah, I mean, I love living here for many reasons, but I think one of them is that it's nice to live in a state that's a real maverick and vanguard for where the world has to go. So to switch to hydrogen, you know, I did a story in April. Toyota had a huge event where California Energy Commission announced the rollout of, I think it was 20 different hydrogen stations that are supposed to be built out by the end of next year. I believe 12 of them are in Southern California. And the standard was that 1/3 of the hydrogen had to be from renewable sources. And then when I was asking for more detailed information on each of the stations, like what was the profile of each one, they revealed that a lot of these stations, the hydrogen also isn't going to be pumped, it's going to be it's going to be trucked. So that I just thought was so disturbing, because you already have you know, the energy that went into creating the hydrogen, much of it is from natural gas, so you're going through multiple steps to get to hydrogen, and then you're not even having it piped, you're having it trucked. So hydrogen always, people talk about it as being like the end game, and if there's hydrogen, there's battery electric. Does anybody have anything about, is it just seems like it's a longer timeline to get to hydrogen in terms of its true environmental benefit, right?
I was on a study by the National Petroleum Council a few years ago that looked at this, and all the automakers are saying that all the hydrogen would be steam reformation of natural gas for a long time. We're talking about like to 2050. So a lot of people don't realize that's the main technology that they talk about. And part of the reason is that using like the wind to make, or sun to make hydrogen, may sound good, but when you actually do the math, it doesn't turn out so good. So for example, if you take a kilowatt hour of wind and put it into a hydrogen car, or put it into a battery electric car, which do you think will go further? Say, go 3 times farther on the kilowatt hour,
3 times
maybe
farther
on the battery electric than so it's just not a great way to make hydrogen. To use the electrolysis unless there's a technology breakthrough. That's the technology to convert electricity into hydrogen.
But what about the Fountain Valley station that creates hydrogen? Like, well, I just don't understand. Like, why wouldn't you just take this detrimental waste gas? Why wouldn't you just do it? Like, use it. You got that.
And the answer is because the processes currently are so expensive. When they did that, the numbers that I saw were, I remember for like natural gas. I mean, pipeline natural gas is somewhere around $1.20, and they were north of about $7.
Okay, thank you for the number, because that's, yeah.
So when you do that, and then you're going to take that $7 natural gas, and then you're going to put it through a reformer, so that you can, so it's, and part of this is, like I said, a lot of this is science experiments. I remember seeing the early numbers when they did a fuel cell bus for AC Transit up in the Bay Area. Chevron put in the photosynthesis to create the hydrogen. And that was a $20 million plant about 15 years ago. And it only produced enough hydrogen to fuel that bus once every 3 days. So, but from that, they figured out how to do it much more efficiently and at a much lower cost. So it's part of it is you got to start from where. I mean, it's like the electric cars. It's like our leads. The one in 2017 is going to be infinitely better. 2018, they could probably have an autonomous system, but for the insurance issues and everything else. There are a lot. All of this starts someplace, and it's a path. And we have to understand that the initial stages are going to be very expensive.
I would, on the AC Transit, I know a person who's on the board there who is proud, but AC Transit runs a number of hydrogen fuel cell buses. I guess there are, well, maybe somebody else in California, but if you all saw the battery electric Metro BYD bus that they're going to start coming off the assembly line in the Antelope Valley. Another company, Proterra, has made a different concept of battery electric bus that's out at Foothill Transit in Pomona. They do a fast charge every time they go by their layover point versus trying to last all day on a larger number of batteries. AC went with the fuel cell approach, and they're proud of part of the electricity, or the hydrogen does come from photovoltaics, but when you look at that whole process of photovoltaics to electrolysing the water into hydrogen, compressing the hydrogen into the tank, putting it on the vehicle, running it through the fuel cell stack, versus just charge the battery 3 times. That's quite a. If you look at Toyota presentations about the future of propulsion, yes, the holy grail is the hydrogen fuel cell. I bet Elon Musk would disagree. That he probably figures by the time Toyota gets anywhere with their fuel cell, I'm going to own the market with battery electrics. And why is anyone going to want a hydrogen fuel cell? It's just so much complexity.